I'm going to grab a mic because I don't like to stand behind podiums. It's a little bit formal. So wonderful to be here. My name is Leslie. I run a foundation called Laudes Foundation. And what I wanted to talk about in the few minutes I have is the beautiful role of philanthropy. And I want to tell a little story about that, but more importantly, talk a little bit about how, given all the challenges that we heard today and yesterday, philanthropy can actually make a difference. So let's get started. Just a few words on Laudes. We are a Swiss-based foundation very much working on accelerating the transition of different industries from fashion to built environment, finance, and food, and using the catalytic power of philanthropy to try to make change. So first, let me just reiterate how important this gathering has been over the past 2 days. I learned a lot. I sat in a lot of these sessions, and it was actually incredible to hear the opportunities and the challenges that investors are facing. And these are indeed things that we as a foundation are trying to address. And second, I have a bit of mixed emotions standing here, given that this is the Investment COP and the World Climate Foundation event. Because on the one hand, as a philanthropic foundation, I feel a bit warm and fuzzy. You know, we're an investor, but not really an investor because we're soft capital. But then I also feel a little bit of the belle of the ball, because when you're a foundation and you have money, people want to talk to you and invite you to their parties. So I got a lot of invitations, thank you. But what I do want to say is that philanthropic capital can be very catalytic. And the purpose of my final sort of comments as we close this plenary is actually talk about how it can be catalytic and give 5 examples, because I think if you're an investor in this room or if you're a change maker and you're not partnering with philanthropy, I think you're missing a trick, and I think there's a role philanthropy can play. So let me talk about the five ways we do that. Way number 1. Philanthropy, as you know, can support those catalysts that are really creating change. And I'm very pleased to have Nicole from Canopy in front of me. And to those who don't know Canopy, Nicole is really, with her amazing team, essentially transforming the fashion, the fiber, the textile industry in the world, but also doing it in a really cool way. She's actually building a platform in India, which will be multi-billion-dollar fund that's effectively going to transform how next-gen materials are produced and reused. And this is massive, because if you look at the carbon emissions of the fashion industry, it's significant. So we're very proud to support Nicole. And if anyone's looking for a great investment, find her over drinks. Sorry, that's a shameless plug, but we love Nicole. So second, number 2, philanthropy can make the case for change. I think what's really important here is I heard a lot today whether something like bio-based materials in buildings can make sense. And it can make sense. And we as philanthropy can actually show what that looks like. In fact, we have done that in Europe, and we've done something like Built by Nature, which is a network that actually shows and actually makes the business case for putting more timber and bio-based materials into buildings. So we can actually make it exist and therefore show that it's possible. Thirdly, philanthropy can create the conditions for innovation and innovation to scale. We're doing that in fashion, partnership with Nicole, also with organizations like Fashion for Good, which is an innovation accelerator. And that's really important, because sometimes no one wants to create an accelerator for something that only benefits, well, not only benefits their business, but the whole industry. There's a little bit of a tragedy of the commons, but philanthropy can create that platform and get folks to come along. Fourthly, philanthropy can change the rules of the game. I heard references to policy, legislation, the rules. We need incentives and carrots. We in philanthropy work with partners to try to craft those incentives and sometimes prevent the backsliding, but not always successfully. And then finally, we can make it easy for investors to come in by creating funds and make it easy to come in, by working with partners like AIGCC in Asia, which are actually helping investors that have 35 trillion of assets under management actually know how to invest for just transitions. So there's a lot of stuff we can do. And I'm saying that not to toot my own horn, but also to say, if you're not working with with philanthropy, let's change that, because I think there's a lot we can do. What I would like to say, though, is while we can play a role, don't get too attached, because we are very small, not we as Laudes, but in general, philanthropy is less than $1 trillion globally, and only 2% of that is actually going to climate. So it's not big enough. We definitely need more of it, but we also need each of you to step up. So in conclusion, what I would love to see is looking beyond Belen, because I think we are looking forward. I'm very optimistic, and I always say in philanthropy, we're very optimistic in philanthropy. We believe the good of everything, but I'm optimistic because we're going to see more collaboration across unlikely allies. We're going to see more tangible examples of what investing in people, climate, and nature can look like. And hopefully we're going to see more focus, energy, and money flowing into transitions that are good not only for climate and nature, but also for people. And with your ambition and energy, I'm hoping we can create a brighter future, or as Anna Tony said just a few days ago, a fairer and more prosperous future for all. So thank you very much, and come chat with me over the drinks.
Thank you. Leslie, you make my job very easy. Thank you so much for that wonderful delivery. Emphasis on philanthropy has a big role to play in the transition, and also just mobilizing the world to achieve our mutual ambitions. So, my next speaker, very energetic. I remember meeting her in New York, and I thought, this phenomenal lady. And when she just opened her mouth, I was like, wow, she's a powerhouse. I have the pleasure of inviting to stage Xiye Bastida, who's the founder of Re-Earth Initiative. Please, let's give her a warm Brazilian after the rain hand of applause. Brazilian, hand of applause, Brazilian. Wonderful.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. I think I will stand at the podium because I need to read, but I really enjoyed that walking. Thank you for making it a little bit different. Well, I did get caught in the rain, so I'm a little wet, but I think that's what we get on making the COP in the Amazon. Let me see if I can switch this. Give me 1 second. Hello, can you hear me? Amazing. Well, firstly, I want to thank Flora for being so kind, being one of the kindest hearts that I know, and the whole team here, because they have given activists like me a space to speak in rooms that we are not usually invited in. And we talk a lot about how we don't have a voice, but I think sometimes it just takes that one person to believe that you can change a heart and you can change a mind. So I'm just very, very grateful for you to just see and hear what activists are thinking about, what we're doing in the context of everything that the world is today with our politics, our governments, and our companies. So the first time I spoke at the World Climate Summit, I think it was at COP26, and that was 5 COPs ago. I was 19 at the time, and I remember feeling like it was such an incredible moment because the energy was so vibrant, and every head of state was at COP26, and it was just an energy that I think we have missed for the past 4 years. And that energy is coming back now at COP30. We have so much expectation for this COP, so much energy, people coming from all over the world. And now that we're here, and I think we all had that experience the first day you arrived of almost feeling like it was the first day of school or like a really important day and finally the moment to make something happen. But what I have seen is that we see ambition rise and fall, conviction rise and fall, our energy rise and fall as if we can let go, as if we can keep ignoring the climate crisis and the impacts that it's having in our communities. At COP26, I gave a speech at the World Leaders Summit, and I asked, how many more COPs do we need to take action? And today I ask, how many more lives? How many more territories? How many more degrees? How many more languages lost and cultures expendable? Because we have yet not figured it out. I know we're all here for that, but I think we need a moment to ground ourselves deeper, that we're still not there, that the planet needs us and future generations need us as well. I've had to grow up literally in the halls of negotiations, my first United Nations conference at 15 years old, almost 8 years ago. I have seen it all. I've heard all promises. I've heard all types of targets and ambition. I've seen people roll back. I've seen the fossil fuel lobbyists come in and out. And it hurts. It hurts that you hope so badly that things will be different, and then it doesn't happen. So my question is, when will we hit that positive tipping point where we stop giving empty promises and creating systems of loopholes that end up benefiting the same system that is destroying Mother Earth? When are we going to realize that Indigenous peoples have the greatest amount of biodiversity in our territories because we create the conditions for life to thrive? That is really, we don't have the most territories in the world. We have the best stewardship. And these systems are not going to work unless we co-create them. These systems are not going to work unless we bring youth into this, not as, you know, the way in which we brought them 5 years ago, where it was because the youth movement was so popular. It's because we need to really look for that intergenerational building of the world of the future. Right now, there's more than $2 trillion going into fossil fuel subsidies. Why are we still paying to destroy Mother Earth? I still don't think we are on the same page about where the world is. The planetary boundaries have just said that we breached 7 of the 9 boundaries, and that doesn't mean that we're hitting tipping points necessarily, even though we have hit the coral bleaching tipping point. How many more boundaries do we have to cross for us to wake up? How close does a climate disaster need to come to you for it to change the way in which you look at our impact? And a more important question, I actually don't even know how to formulate it, but I've been thinking a lot about this. We keep talking about solutions all the time, and always pushing on solutions also sometimes assumes that everything around us is broken. Does that make sense? And that's not true. We have systems that aren't broken. We have relationships with the land that aren't broken. We have ways of cohabiting and living in balance that have been studied and worked and developed for thousands of years. Those relationships exist. And I invite each and every one of you to think of how the systems, the industries, the governments that you work in can mimic closer to the cycles of the earth, because the earth is wise. And if she has developed cycles that work over thousands of years of trial and error, I think we should go there too. The last thing that I'll say is we have also talked a lot about the just transition. And what we are calling for is the just transitions of food, fashion, the economy, energy. And the reason why we think it's important to add the S on just transitions is because we are entitled to dream of different futures, to live different realities that work for our different territories that are all unique and beautiful. And when you have more possibilities of different futures, you have more chance of success. That's what biodiversity teaches us. The more you have, the more resilience. We will not have the solution that fixes it all. That's why we need every single person today to put themselves forward, to look at somebody younger in the eye and say, I will do this for you because I love you and I love life and I love this earth. I will be here in 5 COPs, and hopefully we don't have 10 more COPs. But I will still be here, my peers will be here, our movement is growing, we are growing up We have finished college, we're going into our masters, we're going into the professional world, we're becoming lawyers. My friend is fighting for the rights of future generations. Another one is fighting for the rights of whales to have personhood. We are getting really creative on how to do it, but I can't wonder but think that we probably didn't need to get that creative if we didn't have a system that is taking so much. So let's meet in the middle so that we have a chance of a future that we're proud of. So that I don't have to send my kids to the UN when they're 15. My parents met in Rio at the first climate summit. And I'm back now in Brazil almost 30 years later. And I'm incredibly proud for everything that they did so that I could understand my role in the world. But we cannot wait for all of these activists to have kids and those kids to speak up. It is our time today. It is our turn now. And I invite you to connect to that calling so that we can really, really turn the page. My dad always says, we're not on earth to live from the earth. We are on earth to live with her. We do not inherit the land from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Let that sink in, and let nature speak through you. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, standing ovation. Xiye, phenomenal. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being the voice of the youth. We owe it to you. We owe it to future generations. This planet wants to be alive. And our contribution, it's the young people that are going to carry the torch and carry the vision. It's our time to act. The youth have spoken. Thank you so much, Xiye. Wonderful. So our next speaker will be speaking in Portuguese. So for those of you who cannot speak Portuguese like myself, there are headsets outside. So if you want to quickly go out and get the headset so that you can listen to this amazing speech by Ursula, you can do that now. But I would like to call upon Ursula Vidal. She is the Secretary of Culture, the state of Pará. Ursula, I remember last year in New York, inviting everybody to Belém. We are here now in the state of Pará. We are excited. We are grateful. You have more than delivered. You brought around indigenous people of the Amazon, indigenous people of the world, the young people. So let's give Pará Belém a hand of applause as Ursula comes to the stage.
Well, first of all, welcome everyone to Belém. We have been working a lot for 2 years to organize the city, to organize everything, to make the skin of the city vibrant, to present you a wonderful city, our wonderful city. But I know I have this commitment to speak in my own language all the time. We turn this key to understand in English, but the music of my language is wonderful, so I will speak in Portuguese. Okay? Some time to take the translation equipment, and I will say something that is very important for everyone. Until 21st, we will just accept compliment because we worked a lot and we're doing our best. And now we're going to speak in Portuguese.
We have had a week with a lot of activities. We are here in this activity, which is a parallel event of the World Climate Foundation, However, many people are going to the green zone, to the blue zone, and many other parallel events that are happening in the city. And we have been hearing experiences, sharing dreams, lessons learned, commitments, much. How is it called? Xiye. She touched our hearts in an absolute way. She was so young, has been hearing the same commitments, and notice that we are here. I mean, we're not in the same place. We are making an important effort, insignificant effort. We are advancing. We could even be in 4 degrees if it wasn't for the Paris Agreement.
But we need to touch people's hearts. I understand that culture plays a very important role when it does emotional acupuncture in the nuclear core of our belief system, our subjectivity, how we imagine, how we dream about a new possible world. We know that the world has gone through 5 main phases. The species come and go, but ours created language, culture, memory, care, affection, cosmology, the perception of territory and identity, and it created a dream for the future. Culture is what gives us meaning beyond this, which is extraordinary as a sensory experience of what we hear, what we dance, what we eat in a city where we have extraordinary food. But also, culture is very important economically, and that's the message that I have for you. We know our colleague was just referring to the fashion industry and how incredibly pollutant it is. And the fashion industry also produces language. It also produces a sense of belonging. It also produces this relationship with the territory. So, we are living through a transformation in the world of labor through automation and AI. And how can we absorb this immense mass of workers if we do not develop a very rapid capacity to value people's capacities? Each one of us issues messages, produces languages, and has the ability of doing manual work, of engaging in environmental education, of valuing and collecting information and memory for a territory. Each and every one of us has a capacity connected to a type of expression of our culture and our being. Economically, culture is an extraordinary platform for solutions. We currently have a world that is moving towards the energy transition, the green economy, technology and innovation within the valuing of social biodiversity, the protection of tropical forests that play a very important environmental role in the sequestration of carbon. So we know the lesson by heart, we're learning it, but we need to look at culture, and that's the homework that culture needs to do. It needs to produce objective data because in this world, in this business world, most of all in the business sector, in the private sector, the Excel spreadsheet has exact numbers. I need to understand if I am investing $1, what will that dollar generate in terms of social impact, territorial impact, environmental preservation, and us as the culture sector are doing that homework. In some places around the world, that homework is much more consolidated and mature because some places already have a cultural industry that also needs to engage in a transition to decrease its carbon footprint. It needs to do its homework not only as a communication platform to engage people, but also itself as an industry that must be green. But here in the Amazon, and I need to talk about where I'm from I'm a woman from the Amazon where we have waters that rain on a daily basis, washing away what no longer serves us and renewing life. In this Amazon, popular culture is wisdom. And it's in the past, uh, in this region, in this wonderful forest that occupies this entire setting. uh, we have 70% of our people living in urban cities, and these people live in a little more than 20 cities. We produce forests through knowledge. The black earth produced in a cooperation between microorganisms, fungi, and human intelligence of original peoples who have been here for 12,000 years have created this extraordinary biodiversity. There's a lake just beside us, very close to us, very close to the place where we're at right now, about a kilometer away, which is the lake with the highest amount of fish in the world. A lake inside the Chinga Park, a conservation unit inside the city, 90 species of fish. So just imagine what we don't know about this nature and what it still has to teach us. So culture is this place of transmitting knowledge, of valuing the past, of understanding where we're from. It has this library, this wonderful library of knowledge, of wisdom to offer to us as a human experience. For us to understand how extremely complex civilizations lived in this territory in harmony with nature, so that we can learn. There's a very interesting story that I was told this morning, and I'm concluding my speech here. An anthropologist, a dear friend who was the president of FUNAI for a long time, he used to say, the indigenous leaders in the territory used to tell him, we will lose our lives and our livelihoods because this river is going to die. And he said, we can no longer save this river. It's too complex. We will expand the indigenous land so that the community can move to another river. And the indigenous leader said, the sky will fall. If we don't change the way we occupy this territory, if we don't save this river, the sky is going to fall. And he would answer, no, but we will work to protect your food security. And they took a, a piece of wood and pointed to the anthropologist's ear and said, I'm going to pierce your ear, so your eardrums, so that you listen, because you don't want to listen. The sky is going to fall. We will no longer have land to step on. Indigenous peoples have a spiritual connection to the earth. The nature tells them what's going to happen. They know much more than our science, which is still summarizing things. And to conclude, in addition to culture being an employability industry, and the cultural industry in Brazil is strongest than civil construction or the automobile industry, we are the solution that's based on culture to engage, to be this platform of propelling people's belief system and reminding them that they have a beating heart. Culture also feeds us. We have been going around many conversations and listening to a lot of things. I'm very tired. I was exhausted. I didn't even know if it was Friday. I was on my 5th cup of coffee coming here. And when I went through one of the Green Zone pavilions, I heard carimbó music, and I gave myself over, my Amazonian woman body, to dance that carimbó and sing to life, to memory, to art, to the human experience of sharing together in a moment with our bodies, which is the only thing that we have that's our own. And then I was revived. So long live culture. Thank you.
Things we'd always ask ourselves as we're leading to Berlin is, Berlin or not to Berlin? We are in Berlin, Berlin delivered, and here we are. Thank you so much, this wonderful state of Pará. Now to our second last speaker, we have Leyla Hasanova, who is from the COP29 Presidency, and she is a youth climate champion. Welcome, Leyla.
So much. I'll take the continuity and also join the lectern. Hello, everyone. Good evening already. It's a little late, but everyone's here having those nice smiles. I'm very happy to see you, and I want to thank World Climate Foundation for the invitation to join you here today. Of course, it's an honor to be here, and if you don't know, but the Presidency Youth Climate Champion role exists since COP28. It was institutionalized during UAE COP, and now each and every presidency will be having the Presidency Youth Climate Champion in order to make sure that the policies, demands, and expectations of children and youth who participate in the process, in the COP processes, are meaningfully included in the decisions. Well, over the last 2 years, in my role as COP29 Youth Climate Champion, I've seen how powerful it is when young people and, unfortunately, underrepresented groups are not just invited to the table, but empowered to influence the outcomes. The energy and clarity of their leadership, of course, are not future assets. They are present necessities. When we speak about young people, I usually hear that we say, well, they are our future, and etc. And maybe, yes, of course, we are the future. But we are also the present. We need to bear this in mind when we talk to policymakers, when we try to impress them, make sure that our expectations from the outcomes that they take are really meaningful. And throughout these years, one truth has echoed through every panel, every discussion, every hallway conversation that I have attended. We cannot regenerate our planet without including the people who live on it, children, youth, all of us included. Regeneration is not only about restoring the ecosystems that we live in, it's about renewing trust. When I enter the halls of conference venue, I sometimes get lost thinking about trust. Do I trust those people in the rooms? Do I trust those people speaking on behalf of children, youth, and other groups and constituencies, ministries? Sometimes I do trust, but sometimes I lose it, unfortunately. Because we're living in a world, I sometimes honestly get lost because the photos are nice from the conferences, the quotes are nicer even, but what about actions? Do they really take them? Well, we need to be rebuilding communities, redesigning the economy that gives back more than it takes. And inclusion is not just representation. It's meaningful participation of ours. It's shared leadership and ensuring that no community, no one is left behind in the transition that we are building all together. Of course, these gatherings remind us that solutions grow stronger when more voices are heard. Youth leaders, indigenous guardians of nature, frontline communities living the climate crisis every day, innovators, scientists, businesses, and governments. Each voice brought a different piece of the puzzle. And together, they formed a picture of the hope. At least that's what I saw last year at COP29 in my home country, Azerbaijan. I want to give you an example from my city, Baku. If any of you have been to COP29 in Baku, then you've probably seen the Caspian Sea. Well, 15 years ago, and maybe more, I was a kid and I was walking at the boulevard and Caspian Sea was very, very close to me and I was seeing it like this. Now it's not. The levels of the sea are decreasing. And one of the main issues, one of the main challenges is climate change. Yes, we speak about that. Yes, we talk about that. But do we actually understand where we are going? I don't think we do. Sometimes we get lost. And that's what I see every time I walk at the boulevard now in Baku. The sea levels are shrinking. It's not even close to you anymore. And it's very visible. It's very visible. So we're trying to push for it in my country. We're trying to educate children and youth from kindergarten, schools, and universities in order to not to pollute, first of all, the sea, and to make sure that we care about the sea, about the nature, as we care about our beloved ones. I would like to leave you with 3 simple commitments. First, as the Voices of Regeneration and Inclusion, the Keynotes, regenerate with purpose. Invest in nature-positive solutions and community-led action that restore life, not just reduce them. Second, include with intention. Make space for us, for young people, Indigenous knowledge holders, women, and vulnerable communities to shape decisions from the beginning, not at the very end. And third, collaborate with courage, because the scale of the transition we need cannot be achieved by any sector or any country alone. If we carry these commitments forward, which I hope we do, then it means that we're on the right track to the greener future. And I have a question. Are we ready to build a future where everyone has a place? I want to see the hands. Are we ready? Okay, great. Then, the future is not a distant horizon. It's right around the corner. And let's start today by choosing courage over comfort, inclusion over silence, and action over promise. Thank you.
Leyla, thank you for that wonderful address. Thank you so much. I do hugs with the young people. Once upon a time, I used to be young. Now I'm not, and I'm sure a lot of us can share that. And the future is now. It's not tomorrow. It's now. We have to act now. So, our last but not least speaker of the day to close our wonderful World Climate Summit, I have Karla Braga, who is the UN Youth Ambassador. She's going to give us an address. Looking forward to that. Can we give her a warm hand of applause as she comes up? How nice it is to be a young person. Hold on to it, but also pass it on. Thank you very much. Of course, of course.
Amazing. Everyone can hear me? Yes. Okay, amazing. Hi everyone, my name is Karla Braga, and right now I will speak in Portuguese because I would like to speak with my heart. So to be more poetic, I feel that I can do this better in Portuguese. So I will start right now.
I'd like to begin by thanking the World Climate Foundation, especially Flora, for always believing in the Amazonian youth, in our voices, and in our potential of occupying spaces and changing the way in which we are building the world. I'd like to say that I've been on a very hard mission of re-enchanting the world. And in this process of re-enchanting the world, I've been re-enchanting myself. Because following the last 4 COPs and the bond negotiations have made me lose hope. And I lost hope not because I don't see people in civil society acting, but because leaders and decision makers in their majority don't seem to be connected to the realities that we're experiencing in our territory. And here I'd like to make an urgent call for action, because most of all, when we talk about the reality of the youth in the state of Pará, and I'd like to introduce myself a little bit more to you. I'm Karla Braga. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Co-Jovem Institute. And it is an acronym for Cooperation for by the Amazonian Youth for Sustainable Development. I founded the Co-Jovem Institute 5 years ago because 5 years ago I didn't have any life perspectives. I come from a periphery, the neighborhood of Marambaia, which is now unfortunately known because 15 kilometers of our environmental preservation area was deforested to build the Liberdade Avenue, which was one of the construction works being done for COP30. And it was one of the construction works that were decided on in a boardroom in São Paulo, in the south center of the country. And the Amazonian territory suffers because of this. Many decisions that are made about the development of our territory are not made together with the people who live here and who reproduce their dreams and their struggles throughout their lives. And we need to look at the Amazon, like Ursula said, like a territory, a rich, prosperous territory with minds and hearts that are growing the possible futures in their biodiversity and their persistency in believing that that a better world and different world is possible because we act every day to create a difference. And bringing a little bit of the Co-Jovem Institute experience, what we have experienced is that currently we were able to change public policies in the state of Pará to include young people from the legal Amazon in the main mitigation plans in the state. And we did this because, for example, here in the state of Pará, we experience a very complex reality. In 2025, the budget that we have for the youth is 15,000 reais. If we were to divide 15,000 reais by the number of young people we have in the state of Pará, this creates less than 1 cent invested in public policies for youth. But the public policies for social bioeconomy and Red Plus and the payment for environmental services are in debt with the youth. They are not continuing the policies because they don't get investment. And if we do not move forward in the climate solutions by strengthening the rights of the populations who live in the field, we will have decision-making that is completely out of context. And this is what we've been trying to change. We have been the right arm of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the just transition and climate adaptation negotiations, bringing data and reality of the Brazilian youth, especially of the legal Amazon, to think about efficient just transition and climate adaptation mechanisms. And most of all, I know this may sound like just technical data, but it's not. It is our strategy to dream and to keep on re-enchanting the world. Because if we do not build this change, and if we're not committed to it, who will do that for us? And we do this not because we want to fight. Currently, all I've been doing is fighting. I wake up and I go to bed very late because I have to fight. And I don't want to fight. I'm tired of fighting. I'm so tired. I want to lay down in a hammock. I want to eat good fish. I want to bathe in the river. But I'm losing my rivers. We're losing our forests. We're losing our fish. They're contaminated. And I don't know currently if what I'm eating is safe for my own health and for the health of those that I love. So currently we resist out of love. I do it for my mother, who strongly believes in me. And here in the places that I occupy, to share a different perspective, to touch minds and hearts so we can actually think about a different way of living. I do this for my brothers because I love them so much, and I want them to have the opportunity to live in an appropriate place, I want them to have the opportunity to get to know the rivers that I know and that I'm losing. And they're losing them as well. They no longer know the rivers that I knew, the territory where I was born. I do this for mothers who have children. I do this for aunts who have nephews, for grandmothers who have grandchildren. I do it for all of us. And when I ask all of you to do this with me, because I can no longer do it alone. Currently, we are the biggest youth organization in the Amazon. There are many young people dreaming with us and making things happen, but we can only make things happen because we're not alone. And currently, I want to invite all of you to this regeneration mutirão to regenerate minds and hearts towards a possible planet. I do this for myself. I'm currently 28 years old and I wake up 8 a.m. and I go to bed after midnight so that we can make connections towards regeneration. And it's for all of you. It's for all of us that we're here. This is a collective call so that we can re-enchant the world and think that a better tomorrow is possible, a tomorrow that's different from our current fight, a scenario where all of us can have a good space to live and to share experiences. Because investing in Amazonian youth is investing in the conservation of the planet and on the longevity of our lives. Thank you.
Can I get a hug? Oh, wonderful. So we have come to the end of our phenomenal World Climate Summit, Berlin edition in Brazil, Pará state. It has been fantastic. It's been amazing having you all. My task briefly is to just thank our audience for choosing us. We really, truly appreciate that. So give yourselves a hand of applause. Wonderful. To our partners, to our sponsors, the ones that have made this possible, the ones that have invested in us, in our vision and our mission, we thank you. Can you please give them a warm hand of applause? To our speakers, to our panelists, their intellectual interventions, but their practicality, the indigenous people that also graced us with their appearance and sharing their knowledge and their wisdom and their passion for their own lands. We thank them for coming through. A hand of applause. And then last but not least, our team that has brought all of this together at the World Climate Foundation. Congratulations, team. Yes to another successful summit. A hand of applause to you. Yay!